is going on, everybody? You heard the introduction music, you know what time it is. You're listening to episode number 15 of Trail Tales. My name is Kyle O'Grady, and this is the podcast where I chat with thru hikers and peak baggers, and as of today, trail runners about their experiences hiking and in the outdoors. Now, I've got a great episode for you guys today. Honestly, I think it might be my favorite one yet. It's kind of tough to say. I've had a lot of fun conversations on here, but I think this one takes the cake. I don't know. Today's guest is my friend Kolby Ziemendorf, who is an experienced hiker and trail runner. He's definitely a bit of a different hiker compared to all the thru hikers I've had on pretty much all my episodes so far, but he still had a ton of awesome insight nonetheless. Honestly, this episode really kind of has it all. We have multiple bear stories. Kolby talks a lot about why he prefers trail running over normal hiking, and we chat a bunch about the charity that him and his wife Catherine started called 46 Climbs. We talk a lot about the Adirondacks, where Kolby has done most of his hiking, and I always love talking about the Adirondacks because I've hiked there quite a bit as well, and I feel like a lot of people that are familiar with the Appalachians don't really know as much about the Adirondacks. I don't know, maybe that's not true, but that's just kind of what it seems like to me. So anyways, I can't wait to share this one with you guys, and we're going to get into it in just a moment. Now, I like to do this thing where I read my 5-star iTunes reviews out loud at the beginning of an episode, and I got another 5-star review a couple days ago, so I'm going to read that right now. It says, "Hey Kyle, my hiking partner Cranky and I, Tumbles, really enjoy your podcast. We've been listening to various hiking podcasts over the past couple of years, and we agree that yours is a favorite. Well, thank you very much. You keep the subject, you're well spoken, I don't know about that, and have some quality guests on the show." Now that, I agree with. If you ever want to have some section hikers on the show, Cranky and I are your people. Have a good one, Vivian. Well, Vivian, thank you so much for the review. I'd love to get in touch with you and chat about some of your hikes. That would be really cool. If anybody else wants to leave a 5-star review and be blessed with having me read it out loud to like the 200 people that will download this, feel free to do so. It'll be really fun. You'll be really cool. You'll have lots of wealth and friends surround you for the rest of your life. Probably not, but it'll be cool and I will really appreciate it. So feel free to do that. I also want to say that if you want to get in touch with me for some crazy reason, that is a thing that can happen. I'm on Instagram, Trail Tales Pod. I post a lot of pictures from my AT thru hike on there, and soon I'm going to start posting pictures from other hikes I've done in the past because honestly, I'm kind of running out of pictures from my thru hike anyways. So yeah, go follow me on there, send me a DM, like some of my photos, maybe unfollow me after you realize that they suck. I don't know. Go follow me on Instagram. It'll be a lot of fun. And the last thing I want to say is I'm in the process of creating a Patreon for the show. Now, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically a platform where content creators like myself, if you can even call me that, can be supported by fans who are just really into the content. And you basically would pledge a few dollars a month. I'm talking like $2 to $5, and the money goes right back into helping me produce Trail Tales. In return, every month you'll receive a bonus episode, some bloopers and outtakes I've kept from when I'm recording conversations, and my introductions. There's a lot of those, trust me. And I'm still trying to think of a few more perks that people can get if they are willing to support me. Now, I'm certainly not going broke producing this show, but there are some small expenses associated with it, so I would just really appreciate it. Be on the lookout for that if you're interested, and if not, then no worries. The show will always be free, and I won't bug you too much about money, I promise. Alright, that's it. Let's get into it with Kolby Ziemendorf, the co-founder of 46 Climbs. We are recording Trail Tales time number 15. I'm here with my friend Kolby Ziemendorf, and this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Now, I said that before, and it was usually on episodes where I was interviewing people that had hiked trails other than the Appalachian Trail, but this time I really mean it's going to be a different episode because Kolby is not a thru hiker, and you might be thinking, Kyle, why are you interviewing someone who's not a thru hiker? And to that, I would say Kolby is still an avid hiker. He's more specifically an avid trail runner. He's done ultra marathons. He's done some really, really cool stuff. And he's just an all-around pretty badass dude. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also looking forward to kind of making an episode that's a little bit different than normal. You know, I don't want to just keep putting out the same thing over and over. So it's going to be cool. Kolby, what's going on, man? How is your evening so far?
Pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm glad we actually got connected this time. Kolby and I had a little bit of trouble 2 days ago trying to get connected, but that is pretty normal around here. That happens on like almost every single episode, honestly. At least half of the episodes I've done, we've had to reschedule because of technical difficulties. So we made it work. Kolby's here today, and I'm super, super stoked about that. Now, to start off the episode, I'm going to do my best to recall the story, kind of how Kolby and I got to know each other a little bit. So Kolby, feel free to like jump in at any time here, because like I haven't really actually told this story out loud probably ever, and of course it's been a number of years now. But okay, so let's flash back to 2014, August of 2014. I was 18 years old at the time. I was going into my freshman year of college at Clarkson University, which, if you've heard of Clarkson, you probably either live in New York, you're an engineer, or you follow college hockey. If you don't fall into any of those categories, you probably don't know or care what Clarkson is, but just a small little engineering school in the middle of northern, like way northern New York, like Canada almost, northern New York. Anyways, I was going to be a freshman at Clarkson, and as a lot of colleges do, Clarkson's Outing Club put on this pre-orientation kind of hiking adventure thing for incoming freshmen, right? It's supposed to be a way to kind of meet new people when you start. I'm sure people that have hiked on the AT and other trails before, you know, around the late August, early September time of year, have probably run into these groups at various colleges. Pretty popular thing. Anyways, I signed up for this trip in the Adirondacks, and honestly, I didn't really sign up for it because I like wanted to like get to know people as a freshman. I really kind of saw it as a way to get some like free hiking in, because like my parents were paying for it and everything. I was like, oh cool, we're gonna go bag some peaks in the Adirondacks. Like, I'm trying to do all these 4,000 foot peaks. That sounds like fun. You know, why not? Let's do it. So I did, and Kolby was the trip leader for this like little program that I signed up for. And Kolby, you were at the time, you were probably about the age that I am now, right? What were you, like 22, 23, right at the end of college?
Yeah, I was a super senior at that point. Just finishing up one extra semester. And I was the president of the outing club, so we were organizing all these hikes. There was canoe trips and rock climbing and stuff, and all sorts of good things to just get people new to Clarkson out into the outdoors and meeting people and maybe doing a new activity. But the trip that we were doing was supposed to be like the expert level trip or whatever, and
Which is why I signed up for it. I was like, oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm obviously a hiking expert. Like, I belong on this trip. Like, it's
yeah,
gonna be
all of
sick.
us were at that point.
Yeah, but no. So, anyways, I signed up for this trip, and I think we were supposed to tag what, like 4 or 5 of the high peaks
I
of the
think it
Adirondacks.
was. I think it was more than that. I think we were gonna do the McIntyres, and then Skylight, Gray, Marcy, and like maybe Tabletop Phelps or something like
Yeah,
that. Like
just a
it
big
was
old loop there.
it was a pretty good hike.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah,
I mean, it
supposed to be.
still was, but so anyways, I signed up for this trip, and we got out there or whatever, and everybody was kind of just getting to know like each other, and it was I thought the first day was like pretty good, and we were just kind of having fun. We were hiking. It was the McIntyre Range there, right, with
Yeah.
Algonquin right in Iroquois. I haven't gone over there since we did it. So basically, the way this is our very first day of the trip, by the way, and the way the trail there goes is it's basically just these 3 mountains, like I said, right, Algonquin, Iroquois, 3 like pretty significant peaks in the Adirondacks, And this trail that we were on pretty much just goes straight line over the top or near the top of all three of them. And then at the top of the last one, on top of Iroquois, right? Yeah, it's Iroquois.
Yep.
The trail just kind of stops, and you have to backtrack like a half mile or something like that. Back the way you came, and then you take a side trail down,
Yep.
off the top of the ridge. So we did the first two, and we got to the top of Iroquois. It's at the end of the day. It's a pretty tough hike, and some of the other guys in the group weren't quite as experienced as I think
Yep.
you and
And
I
one
were.
of them we found out later had mono the whole time too.
Oh wait, really?
Do you remember that?
Wait, who had mono?
No, I forgot
it's
his name.
It's been a while. Like I said, this is 2014, so
Yeah.
I don't remember that, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
But
it was whoever fell asleep like on a midday on a rock, like when we were just like sitting down.
Dude,
just,
honestly,
like,
I don't even remember everybody who went. I know it was like the other Kyle, because we became friends over the years.
Yeah, and everyone knows Kyle as Nar, but we knew him as Hammock Kyle because we had two Kyles.
This is me, Kyle. He's referring to.
Yes. So we were. It was Hammock Kyle.
Yes,
he had the hammock.
I brought my hammock. So I guess that's kind of the first one of the areas that this trip kind of went wrong is when we were, the night before we left, Kolby and Paul, the other guy that was leading the trip, kind of got us all together and like went through our gear and everything, and we were just kind of finalizing the plans, making sure that everybody was on the same page. And one thing that I noticed was that nobody was carrying a tent. And now there's lean-tos in the Adirondacks. So that was the plan. We were going to stay at these lean-tos, these kind of established campsites. But my kind of like feeling towards that is you should still always like bring a tent or whatever.
And I 100% agree at this point.
And we kind of, so for that reason, I still brought my hammock, but I think I'll get into that in a second. But so anyways, we're on top of Iroquois at the end of this like straight line trail, like I was saying. And instead of taking the backtrack and then going down a side trail like is marked on the map, Kolby had read online somewhere, right, that there was a...
Well, I'd known someone who had done it, but there's a bushwhack that goes down towards Marshall, which is right behind it. There's a trail in between Iroquois and Marshall. And I was like, hey guys, like I know this bushwhack. In my mind, I'm like, all right, so we'll do something that these guys probably haven't done before. I was kind of looking to scout the trail for other reasons, and like I was like, you know what, let's just throw these guys into it and
just send it.
And like I'd never done it myself, so stupid idea. For those who are like used to out west, like hiking, bushwhacking means a whole different thing in the east.
Especially at that, we were above tree line when we first started on top of Iroquois.
Yeah.
For those of you that have hiked in, the White Mountains or any high elevation forest in the Northeast, you're probably familiar with like I think they're spruce trees, like the Christmas tree looking things that are, near the tree line, kind of between the tree line and the lower elevation forest. And if you've hiked in that kind of environment before, you probably know like how thick and just like I like just tough it is to traverse in it, especially without a trail. So
So I've done that trail since this and a few times, and the one time that I went and did it, I actually found somebody's jacket. Looked like they like hiked through, and it was literally shredded to pieces. But yeah, so you start off and there's all these like different herd paths of people who think they know where they're going but don't actually know where they're going, and so people just kind of follow these herd paths or these like things that turn into herd paths over time. And luckily we didn't get cliffed out at the cliff there, which I did another time that I went and tried to do that, where you just like get to an edge and you're like, crap,
where do I
go now? But luckily we actually, I think, found the correct way down. But what happened was, instead of going straight to hit that trail, we started going like descending down the mountain and ended up kind of parallel with the trail instead of like just going straight forward. And like people were, oh my gosh, people were like falling all over the place,
I mean, I
and
can't
like,
like I can't stress enough like how like thick this stuff was. Like it was just, I mean,
and everyone's looking at me like, who is this guy? Like, where is he taking us? Like, Paul was the other leader, and he was a pretty good rock climber, and he'd done like one high peak before this, so he wasn't really a hiker at this point. So even he was like looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, and so um, eventually, like, I think we got to camp at like 10 o'clock
oh
that
yeah, it
night.
was well after dark at this point.
It was a sufferfest for everyone, and I felt so bad.
The ranger down there definitely gave you a piece of his mind about that
Oh
too.
yeah, he was like, yeah, like, where are you guys from? Well, we were trying to, well, what happened, we went down there and all the campsites were
Right,
full.
all the lean-tos were full, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
So I had still brought my hammock because, like I said, I wasn't really
Yeah.
comfortable
Kyle
not
was the
going
only
out there
one.
with. So,
Yeah.
these people like squeezed into like another lean-to with a different Clarkson group actually, who are out on like a different trip for the pre-orientation thing, right?
We found out later. So normally, in the Adirondacks, what you want to do is you want to, if there's a like Clarkson as a school being out there should separate their people by a mile while hiking and camping. And camping, I believe it's eight people to a lean-to
Yep.
in general. And so we went down there, and all the years prior to this, like whatever our Prio trips landed on the date ended up landing on the same date as like all the other schools in the
Yeah.
area, and that had never happened before. So like I had never led in a Prio trip before, and so I like got all the directions from everyone passing it down years previous, and we like got there and there was no lean-tos open. And we're like going all over the place, and then we run into a forest ranger, and he's like what the heck is going on? Like this Clarkson group, like I'm gonna
Write us all tickets. He was
well
pissed.
he was like I'm gonna like contact the Clarkson Outing Club president and like tell him because like this is not okay. And like everyone just like looked at me. I was like, yeah, I'm the president. I was like,
So
I can
good.
promise you this will never happen again. So,
And I don't think it has since then, to be fair, but
no, absolutely not. I had that so well documented after that trip.
it was a shit
Oh,
show. But
oh
honestly,
my
despite the
gosh.
rough beginning, we kind of changed our plans after that. We did not do as aggressive of a trip as we were kind of planning on doing from the beginning. And honestly, all that considered, like I still had a blast. And
Oh, it was
like I
awesome.
said, I became like pretty good friends with Kyle and some of the other people in that group. So, and you, of
Yeah,
course. So it was a it was a good time. I just had to tell that story to start
absolutely.
off the episode because I don't know, got to work some Clarkson talk in there. I don't think I've ever
Definitely.
talked about my alma mater or whatever on the show
Yeah.
before, so that's out of the way now. But anyways, there's a bunch of other really cool things I want to talk to Colby about besides just busting his balls for that. Um, so 46 climbs. Now, those of you that are familiar with the Adirondacks are probably aware of the whole 46er thing. You try to hike all 46 of these peaks that are supposed to be all over 4,000 feet. A couple of them aren't, but in theory, that's kind of the idea behind it. Just a peak bagging, like normal list, kind of pretty famous one. And Colby kind of took that to the next level around the same time that this trip that we just talked about was going on, and he actually ended up starting his own kind of charitable organization called 46 Climbs to benefit suicide prevention. Now, I'm not going to talk about it too much here because I kind of want to hear it from you, Colby. So why don't you just explain a little bit just what 46 Climbs, the organization, is?
Yeah, so 46 Climbs is a national community of hikers and climbers from all across the United States. And during one week of the year in September, climbers and hikers go out and climb mountains for suicide prevention to raise funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So what happens is people sign up for $25 to get the 46 Climbs shirt and bandana for those who are hiking mountains that you wouldn't necessarily want to be taking your jacket off. And so that we can be identified. And during that week, people take pictures on all these mountains and put it under hashtag 46 climbs, so you can see all the people all across the country and world. At times we've been in 8 different countries now, so you can see those photos come in and the stories, and it's really a cool experience, a totally positive experience that surrounds a definitely a hard subject to talk about, and
Hmm.
it allows people to talk about mental illness and suicide in a positive avenue. Also, it allows people who've lost someone or have struggled themselves with mental illness to be able to go after a physical goal and put everything into that physical goal. So it's an opportunity for healing. It's an opportunity to raise funds for an amazing organization, and it also helps with the stigma of suicide and mental illness by doing it alongside such a positive
Hmm.
uh, community of people and going into the mountains to climb.
Now, I hope I didn't get this number wrong when we were talking on the phone the other day, but you said it was $200,016 that you guys have raised so far.
216,000.
Oh, I knew I would. See, I knew I would get it wrong. Well, that's pretty big difference there, but I mean, that's a huge number. Like
Yeah.
that's super awesome. It's been kind of cool for me too because I've been kind of involved off and on throughout the years. I mean, you graduated shortly after
Yep.
we first met, but I've seen it kind of go from just this initial thing. And when you first told me on the phone the other day that you guys had raised that much money, it kind of blew my mind, honestly. Like, I just think that's so
It
cool how
blows
it's
my
become.
mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's really become kind of a national thing. I mean, there's a good chance that even some of these people that are listening to this have heard of it
Yeah.
before. So that's really cool.
To put in perspective, the last year we had 400 people climbing, and 50% of those people found out from someone who had climbed before, not from like any of our social media or any of our promotional things. So it's really taken legs of its own.
Yeah. I mean, that's I just think that's so awesome. Why don't you talk a little bit about the history behind the organization? Because I don't I mean, I kind of know some of it, but we really haven't talked about this too much, so I'm really just kind of curious to know like why did you start it and, how did you start it and like how did it kind of grow into what it is, this national organization, this national movement today?
Yeah, so I lost a buddy of mine in high school during my senior year, and during that same year, we actually lost another student that I wasn't actually friends with, but knew of, and that was a devastating
Mm,
thing to go through, and so after going through that, I kind of struggled with it for years afterwards, and always like felt like I wanted to do something to help, and just really didn't know how. So after being at Clarkson, I uh, I met my wife now, Catherine, there, and uh, a week after we started dating, Catherine was telling me about these 46ers, and I came from like zero hiking
mm.
anything background. Like, um, I kind of grew up like in the foothills of the Catskills at like our family cottage, so I was like used to the outdoors and stuff or whatever, but not really hiking mountains or
Right,
any of
right.
that. And so this was like I was a baseball player. Like I played baseball for Clarkson. That kind of puts you in the perspective. I was like far off like from all of this stuff, and I'd never heard of it. I'm from Rochester originally, and my idea of like mountains in New York, I was like, what, they got to be like hills. Like there can't be any substantial mountains in New York. So she was telling me about them, and so the week after we started dating, we went out and did Cascade and Porter, which is normally like the intro to the 46.
Right, right. Probably the easiest too, I would say.
Yeah, definitely, and it's the best, one of the better like work to view
Oh
ratios.
yeah, for
So
sure. It's beautiful up there. I mean, it wasn't when I did them because it was like pouring rain, but I've seen pictures. I know what it
yep,
looks like.
you
They're
can
awesome.
imagine. Yeah. So after that, totally hooked. Well, side note, like when we went up there, it was like green grass on campus, and we got to the trailhead and it was a sheet of ice, and I'm like in my dugout jacket and like sweatpants, like all cotton, totally wrong. I had
We
work
all
boots
start there,
on.
man. We all
Oh my
start there.
gosh. People are walking by me. I'm like, "Oh man, what are those spiky things on their feet? Like that'd be awesome to have." And so basically we started hiking in the winter, and so we learned very quickly what not to do, and we got involved with the outing club and were able to rent gear and everything. So got into all that. Got into ice climbing and rock climbing and all that stuff through the outing club, which like was an incredible group to be a part of.
Hmm.
So through those years, we completed our 46, and after we completed our 46, Catherine was kind of getting me into trail running, which like I coming from being a baseball player, like I was in good shape, but not really running shape,
Yeah.
and we kind of got to the point where like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if we could like see more in one day and go back and see these mountains that we love all in one day? And so we started getting into it, and then had this idea like, hey, there's a week during the year that's National Suicide
Mm.
Prevention Week. What if we went out and attempted to climb all 46 of these peaks during that week to raise funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention?
Yeah.
So we started looking into it, started scouting it, had some help from the current FKT holder, which FKT stands for fastest known time. Um, and we're able to get our route together, and we worked with the Clarkson startup business group to get a website and get a fundraising page going so that we could raise funds. So we went out to do this hike. The first day was Allen and the Santananis, which is just under 40 miles, with 4 high peaks. Probably like the worst of all of them with the most mileage. And I guess I can't rag on those, but doing all of them in one day is kind of a
Yeah,
lot.
you can rag on that. That sounds like a real pain in the ass, if I'm going to be honest.
So that day went okay. The next day we did the Dix Range, so that wasn't too bad. And the third day was a doozy. The plan was to do Big Slide and then cut over to Marcy and then finish out the Great Range. And so at this point, what we learned later on, like we've been doing a bunch of 50s, and I've done a 100 miler a couple years back, and since this point, like we realized that our nutrition was nowhere near where it needed to be. Like
Oh,
not
yeah.
trying to make excuses for like why we failed, but like I remember that first night coming back from Alan and the Santananis, and my mom putting like a plate of pasta or chicken or something in front of me and just looking at it and being like, oh, like I can't eat it. Like
You can't
after
eat it what?
yeah. Well, even you probably experienced this on the trail. Like there's certain things like when it's a super hot day or a super cold day,
Yeah.
like your taste changes, and so when we do all our other stuff now, like we have think different textures and stuff that so like at any point of that spectrum, you'll have something to that you can kind of force
Yeah,
down.
it's kind of different for me coming at it from like a through hiking perspective because after a while you kind of get used to just being like hungry all the time and just
Yeah.
consuming everything. But you know, the fact that you guys were just out there starting this journey, coming right from normal life, you hadn't really had that time to like adjust, I guess. So I can, now that you kind of talk about it like that, I can see where
Yeah.
you're coming from there. And obviously doing this like incredibly difficult hiking, like you're gonna need a lot of calories. Like I can't, like I feel like
Definitely.
I need to stress this for people who haven't hiked in the Adirondacks before. Honestly, I think that for me at least, they're the hardest place I've ever hiked before. They're comparable with the White Mountains, but I still think there some spots in the Adirondacks are like another level above
Yeah.
that. Even like it's tough shit, honestly, and they're going over all the hardest mountains and the tallest mountains too. So yeah, I just want to make that clear. Like, this isn't just like some hills. Obviously, they're going over. This is probably the hardest hiking on the East Coast. Like, I would say, anyways. I don't know. Sorry, continue.
No problem. Yeah. So we made it through to Sawteeth and or Gothics. We made it to Gothics and we're going up the cables and it's like horrific weather, like foggy, can't see anything in front of us. Like we're both just dog tired from not having any fuel on the
Mm-hmm.
fire and it's pretty late at night and like pretty much everything is against us and we realized like at that point in the night like we're not going to be able to make it all the way through and continue.
Mm.
um so we dropped down to Lake Road. And at that point, we're thinking like, okay, so 43 out of 46. If we complete that, I'd say that's pretty good. I think
I would
we won't
agree.
get too much
In a
crap for
week.
that. Yeah. So Lake Road is kind of like this rolling dirt road in the middle of the Adirondacks that St. Hubert's, it's a country club, owns, and we hit the road and we're like, all right, we're on our way out. It's uh, easy trail to get out. And so we go about 2 miles on the road and we're going along and all of a sudden like this is like probably 1 o'clock in the morning at this point.
Oh wow.
And there's these two lights in the woods and we're looking and it almost seems like LED lights are so bright and all of a sudden they move. We're like, no. Like it's it was a bear. And so the bear was like right on the edge of the road, not really in a place where you would feel comfortable kind of walking by it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do everything we're supposed to. We make a bunch of noise. Like I don't think I've ever yelled that loud in my entire life. Uh, that's like our one way out. Outside of like going up the mountains again on either side of the road, and so we're yelling at this bear, and then it takes a step towards us, and we're like, okay, and now
Not
we're
good.
gonna turn back. We went back to the end of the road, so we had a uh, a radio on us, and we were able to contact my parents who were crewing us, and told them about the bear and how we were trying to get by. There's some side trails on the side of the road we were thinking about, but the way the bear was like moving didn't really make sense. Kind of wanted to have the bear in our view on the road versus like being in the thick of the woods on a
Yeah,
tiny little
yeah.
trail. And so we're talking to my parents, trying to figure out how we're gonna do this. I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's just go try again. Maybe it moved. And so we walk about a mile, and the bear had followed us a mile towards us, and we tried again, and
Oh
the thing like
wow.
made another move towards us, and we're like, okay, done. Went back to the end of the road, found a spot to. We actually stayed at the boathouse. As embarrassing as that is, the boathouse is owned by the country club. Not something you should trespass on. Yeah, well, we were on the radio, and my parents were trying to get a hold of the country club, and there's a gate at the end that won't allow cars outside of the country club's or members' vehicles down the road. So they were thinking maybe they could drive the car down to get us out, and I guess the country club misplaced their key. Um, whether or not I believe that or not, I mean, like they deal with like thousands of hikers every year and didn't know what we were doing, so I don't really blame them,
Yeah.
but they kind of gave us permission to shack up in the boathouse, and so the boathouse is kind of like a lean-to, and we were able to grab some tarps from the boats and kind of find a spot where there wasn't a canoe there and sleep through to the morning. And
So
so
you guys didn't have your like overnight gear with you or anything like that?
no, we had like super ultralight packs,
Gotcha.
nothing on us. And so got up in the morning and were able to get out. And after that point, we did a modified version of our original hike. But through all of this craziness that went on, we had a tracker on us during this, and so the following of our hike kind of grew with the news of the bear, and we were able to raise uh $14,500 for the American
Wow.
Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and our goal originally was $10,000, and I remember putting that amount in for our fundraising page and clicking the button and being like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like,
That's
that's
so
so
awesome.
much
Yeah.
money. And then we surpassed it by so much. And through that experience, people were like coming out of the woodwork trying to do anything they could to help, and it was just an amazing experience, and realizing that we kind of had something here where I was able to take my struggle with losing my friend and direct it towards this physical goal. And it was definitely kind of therapeutic to do that
Yeah.
for me, and with all this other interest around our hike, we talked about it and wanted to allow the same opportunity for other people to do the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean going out and doing stuff like what we did. Like, there's people who go out and do Mount Joe type hikes, like small hikes in the woods, not a big deal. To we've had people climb the big walls of Yosemite all the way up to Katahdin, like all sorts of. There's a professional endurance athlete that
Oh, nice.
joined,
Who's
and
that?
that was Travis Macy. So it's just been incredible to see this idea turn into this amazing community and become what it is today. Like, one stat that I left out before, that every year I'll do a calc on everyone's hike and do the elevation gain of the hikes
Mm-hmm.
that were done
Yep.
that year. And since 2015, when we went national with this event, there's been the equivalent of hiking from base camp to Mount Everest 411
Wow.
times.
That's
So
awesome.
just to put in perspective how substantial this movement
Right,
has
right.
become, and just how cool to see people do something so positive, for this cause, is just
Yeah.
awesome.
No, that's incredible, Colby. I mean, obviously, like I said before, like I know what 46 climbs is, but and I know a little bit of the history, but kind of hearing all that like come from you like firsthand right now is like super cool. I already know this is going to be a great episode. I'm stoked. That's just so awesome. Why don't you talk a little bit about how people can get involved with 46 climbs? Like, where can they go if they want to sign up to do a hike next year and raise some money for 46 climbs?
Yeah, 46climbs.com is where our site is, and that connects directly to a site it's called Donor Drive. It's the platform that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention uses. So we don't actually touch any money. It's straight through the
Okay.
foundation. Um, so you can go to our site, and we have a link to their page for us, and you sign up. It's $25 to sign up. You can create a team. So, like, if you're part of a school or part of an outing club or group, or just like
Mm-hmm.
your family, you can create a team, try and raise money to like a team goal and a personal goal. And honestly, if you're not interested in raising money, that's not something that you should be turned away by. Definitely still get involved. But after you sign up, we'll send you a participant package with our dry fit shirt and all the other stuff, and some leave no trace information, because a lot of the times we have a bunch of first time hikers, and we definitely want to make sure that being the first line of defense for leave no trace, we really stress that people are following those principles, and so it's definitely good. We haven't had any issues with that, and people have been able to be educated in that. So you can get involved there.
What's the date like that the Suicide Prevention Week is this upcoming year in 2019? I guess 2019 isn't upcoming; it's this year. But do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, so our event is August 30th to September 8th
Okay, cool.
this year.
Side note: I'm gonna throw this out there right now. This just popped into my head. if anybody's trying to start like a Trail Tales team for 46 climbs, I think that would be super, super
Yeah.
fun. I'm just so excited right now. Like, this is awesome. Uh, I will be looking into that for sure. I think that'd be really cool to get some people that listen to the show that want to get involved with this. Maybe I can like organize a little team, Kolby. Like, I like the sound of that.
That'd be
I like the
sweet.
sound of that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. I feel like you pretty much put it all out there. That was great. Is there anything else you want to say about 46 climbs before we kind of move on to talk about some trail running, ultra running kind of stuff?
Um, Not at this moment.
Okay,
Maybe
cool.
later when I'm listening to this.
That's all good. If you think of anything else, just let me know and I can work it into the show notes. And
Sorry, I just thought of
yeah,
something.
go for it.
So there's one other thing on our site. We have a map with all of the mountains being climbed each year. So after you sign up, I'll put the mountains that you sign up to do on the map. And if you can't think of the mountains you're going to do because it's January or whatever month it is when this comes out, don't worry about it. It's due to be determined, and you can email me as you get closer. But the all of the mountains that are climbed during the event go up on this big map, and you can see like the
Yeah,
entire U.S. just covered in dots. It's a pretty
yeah,
cool
for
thing.
sure. I've seen it before. It's pretty awesome. So 46 climbs, everybody go check it out. Good stuff. So why don't we kind of move on and talk a little bit about trail running? So I've said at the beginning of previous episodes, I say you're listening to Trail Tales, a podcast where I, blah, 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 some douchebag talk with other hikers, peak baggers, and ultra runners is a word I've used a couple times. I haven't used it the last couple episodes because I was like, I haven't actually had any on yet, so I shouldn't say it, but I've kind of am now. So we're going to talk about trail running and ultra running a little bit. It's something that I do not have a lot of experience with. I'm guessing that a lot of my audience doesn't either. Maybe I shouldn't assume that, but I think it's primarily made up of people that are more into like normal traditional backpacking and through hiking. But I'm kind of curious to learn about it. Honestly, I ran into a number of people trail running when I was on my through hike, and I've ran into other people on other hikes as well. So, I just kind of curious and I want to learn about it. So, first of all, Kolby, I know you've done a lot of normal. I say normal hiking. I know you've done a lot of just regular traditional hiking as well as trail running. So and I kind of want to know what made you gravitate more towards the trail running over the normal kind of hiking, I guess.
Yeah, so originally, as you said, I was a hiker, and I just kind of wanted to see more in one day. And it also helped that my wife ran cross country for Clarkson, so she kind of got me into running. And when I say got me into running, like I hated running, and I absolutely hated it. Running was a punishment when you were playing baseball. It is not fun. That's what I thought. So when I started, it was really just to be able to cover more trail in the mountains, and I started running 10 minutes like every day. And 10 minutes being like at like a 9 minute 9:30ish pace, so not super
Are you
fast.
calling my normal running pace not fast, Colby? No,
Well,
I'm just fucking with you. I don't even run that much anyway, so.
so it started off as that just to see more in one day, and really enjoyed. Like last year, I wanted to go out and see a bunch of the whites, and I was able to go see the entire Pemi Loop in a day, and then still do hikes after that. Like, it just when you're short on time, being able to go and see amazing things in the mountains, like there's nothing better. And a lot of people think of trail running as like you're just like sprinting up the mountain, and it's painful and
Maybe you're not like enjoying the experience as much, I
yes,
guess. Like, what would
exactly.
you kind of say to like those people that think that way?
So it definitely does take some preparation, like some training, I guess, to get in a certain shape where you can find what we call the forever pace, like a pace that you can just hold forever. And you're not running the entire time you're trail running in the mountains. Whenever you hit the flats or the downhills, depending on the distance, the downhills, but
Right.
uh, when you're on the flats, you're moving. When you're on the uphills, it's like kind of a swift hike. And then on the downhills, uh, I actually love the downhills. It's like feels like a roller coaster to me. Like when your stomach drops and you just like lean over the edge and just let your body like drop. But you pick up more miles that way, and it's not like as taxing as you would think it is when you think about running. And a little bit more perspective on that, there is a certain heart rate depending on your size and age that you do not want to go over. So for me, I know that it's 150 beats per minute, where you're burning fat up until that point, and then your body starts burning calories.
Mm.
So fat burns a lot slower, and while calories burn much quicker. So it's much more likely to hit a wall if you're really stressing your body out and going beyond that limit, as to where if you're in your forever pace and you're able to keep it below that, you can usually sustain a lot longer.
Right, right. Kind of on that note, I guess, are there any other like important pieces of advice that you would give someone like me who's kind of interested in getting into trail running maybe a little bit, but like doesn't want to just go out there and, oh yeah, I'll just go run the Pemi Loop like 35 fucking miles
Yeah.
and God knows how many feet of elevation gain. Like I don't know, what other pieces of advice would you give somebody trying to get into it?
Um, I would definitely start slow. Like I started with 10 minutes and it was exhausting when I started. Um, my wife actually is the one who does most of our like training schedules, but kind of the idea is where you like 1 week you'll do X amount of miles, and then the next week you'll add 5 miles, and then the next week you'll drop it back 5 miles as you recover, and then like it kind of like you go up and down, gradually growing your mileage and not just like putting all that stress in your body, because you do need to build up your bone density to a point where you're not going to get like
Yeah, yeah.
fractures. Um, but definitely like try and find like a park nearby or like mountain biking trails or something where you can just kind of like get into like a good flow and just like enjoy being out there. You shouldn't be like just
Dying.
just dying. So find that forever pace. When you're in the mountains, like take it easy on the hills going uphill, and just try and get into that groove when you're on the flats, and as you kind of build your technical downhill ability, that doesn't like come overnight either.
Mm.
Like you can use the hills as like just let gravity take you down the hill, as opposed to where a lot of people will be braking as they go down the hill, and it actually uses more energy to stop
Yeah.
yourself from going
Yeah,
down.
that kind of makes sense, honestly, just thinking about it like that. No, that's good. I honestly, I kind of want to get into it. Like, I'm not going to be doing the Pemi Loop in a day anytime soon, but I kind of want to, I don't know, push it to the next level, I guess.
Yeah,
And obviously working 9 to 5, like it'd be kind of cool to be able to still go and like do a mountain after work without having to lose hours of sleep before the next day. So kind of going back to what you said, just that you can experience more in a day, by doing that is kind of the thing that's drawing me towards it. And of course, it's just a great way to get outside and stay in shape and all that stuff. So
yeah. The other thing, there are opportunities to do like a trail race or something there where you can start at
oh
like
yeah, true.
a 5K or like 10 miles or something like that, where you can go in and not really get super competitive about it, and just it'll be something where you have to train to do, and it'll allow you to go test yourself and like push yourself in a place where it's kind of a controlled situation, where like the first time that you're running 50 miles is not in like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So you can gradually kind of move yourself up if you want to do that. Honestly, like trail running does not have to be ultra running. Um, but after that, there are opportunities where the fastest known times, FKT, I mentioned that earlier with the 46, but there's this whole other sport that surrounds the mountains that a lot of people
Yeah.
aren't aware of, where it's kind of on the honor system. It's funny because before, I think like last year, there's a site called fastestknowntimes.com. And before it was upgraded, it was like this kind of sketchy, like forum type thing
Yeah.
where people go on and you put your GPS or your splits or something up there where you can say, "Oh, I ran Marcy in this amount of time," and and then other people will be able to like put theirs up and say, "Oh, I beat it," and like this is the time to beat. Where and it's a cool thing just to see like what the human body can do.
Oh
Where
yeah, for sure.
if you just like scrolling along that site and just seeing all these FKTs. I know that during your through hike this past year, there was a guy named Carl Sabe. If I said his last name wrong, I apologize. But um, he did the Appalachian Trail in 41 days and 7 hours and like 40 minutes or something
Which
like
is
that.
just stupid. Like I don't
It's
even
like
know.
50 miles a day.
Yeah, I don't even know how that's possible. Honestly, I was on the brink of my ability. Just finishing it in 4.5 months. Like I can't even imagine. It's so nuts.
Yeah. That's a cool aspect of the sport. There's like not there's definitely some records that have some meat on them still that you can find, or if you wanted to start one at like your local mountain or something where you can post like this is my FKT for X mountain and see if people want to come and try and beat it and create a little bit of a competition around this
Hmm.
um, around like getting out and doing mountain stuff. So and you don't have to do that. You can kind of do your PR and kind of match yourself up against whatever the FKT is, and so there's ways to challenge yourself, and I definitely enjoy the aspect of challenging yourself in the mountains and the mental aspect of like in theory your body's gonna like you're gonna pass out before you actually hurt yourself running, short of like breaking
Right. Yeah. Like
something or
falling or
like
something like that.
you are the one that tells your body to stop if you think about it. Like you're in too much pain and you're like, all right, I gotta cool it. That's like all happening in your brain. So uh that's like a cool like I definitely love the mental aspect of this whole thing and going through what you previously thought was impossible and then being able to do it down the road is a cool experience when you get into the ultra running and the other mountain running type stuff. So
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm looking forward to trying to get into it a little bit more this next summer, and I'll start slow and kind of take it from there. But we'll see. On that note, I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the hiking etiquette that surrounds like the whole like mix between normal hikers and these trail runners. The only time that I can really think of where this kind of like came into play for me was I was almost to the road crossing at Waynesboro, Virginia, I believe. Rockfish Gap, I think, right before Shenandoah National Park. And I had my headphones in, and I was going along. I was at the end of a 3-day stretch, whatever. Trying to get to town, trying to clean up or whatever. Get some Little Caesars pizza. I remember I was going for that. Anyways, I got the shit scared out of me by this trail runner who was behind me, and at first, like he just kind of like darted past me, and at first I was kind of like, "Yo, like what the hell, dude? Like you just like scared the shit out of me." And then I kind of realized I was like, "Okay, I had my headphones on. He was probably behind me for like 30 seconds at least, like trying to get my attention, and I was just like in the zone." So eventually he was like, "All right, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm just gonna go around him." But I don't know. That kind of got me thinking about it, and then I know you brought it up as something that
yeah.
might be interesting to talk about. So I guess first of all, what are some of the times that you've had like kind of weird, rude-ish experiences with other hikers? I guess while you were running.
Um, and starting off from that beginning story, like I'm apologizing on behalf of all trail runners because that happens.
Yeah, and like I said, like I know it was
Yeah.
just like a bad situation to begin with because I
Yeah.
had my headphones on. I guess honestly I was probably in the wrong just because I wasn't like as aware I don't know.
Yeah, so sometimes that happens when people have their headphones in. Usually, like if I see someone ahead, like I try and cough
Yeah.
or like make some noise of some sort, because sometimes when you say, "Hey, I'm coming up on your left" or something, that scares the crap out of people too. So there's not really any good
No, there
situation.
isn't.
But yeah, as a trail runner, you want to try and make your presence known to not scare the crap out of people. I always feel awful when that happens, but sometimes there's not really any way around
I feel
it.
like it's kind of inevitable in situations like I just described when the person's
Yeah.
not like paying attention or as aware, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously like you don't want that person just like taking a step to the left like as you're trying to pass them. Either you want to try and give them notice so that they know that you're coming and you're not going to just like run into them or something.
Yeah.
So if I see someone has their headphones on, I'll try and slow down and try and like get around them slower and not like blow into them or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Where, but yeah, as the trail etiquette, I would say it's pretty similar to hiking, whereas I don't know if there's an official trail etiquette. I might be wrong, but at least what I do if I'm coming up on someone, usually just because I'm moving faster than them, they usually will see me and kind of like move off to the
Yeah.
side. But if I don't see them moving, then I'll slow down and like move over. Or if uh if someone's coming uphill and I'm going downhill, usually like because it takes more momentum for that person to get going again, and for me just it's just like a lean and
Mm-hmm.
start running again. I'll try and give them the opportunity to keep going and kind of just communicate obviously, and but yeah, it's pretty similar to running to hiking, outside of the fact that you're moving a little bit faster and you definitely need to communicate a little bit better.
Yeah. What I guess you had mentioned when we talked on the phone the other day that there was like a couple times where some of the hikers you were trying to pass were like kind of rude to you because you were running. Like, can you just kind of briefly, because we're getting
Yeah,
kind of low on time here, talk about that?
definitely like not saying all hikers here, like it's a very small
Of
percentage of
course, of
hikers where
course.
I have this issue with, but for some reason, sometimes people I think who have a little bit of an ego, I guess, to them, where like they don't want to be passed.
Yeah, I
Um,
honestly I've experienced that with other people just hiking,
yeah,
just normal hiking too. If I come up to pass somebody, so I know what you're talking about.
yeah. Sometimes you'll come up on people and they like deliberately look at you, but then like turn around and keep hiking and act like you're not there, and you like ask like, hey, like when you get a chance, like, can I get by? And then they like keep walking, and then you like repeat yourself, um, and then they just kind of like give you a dirty look when they eventually let you go. But
That's
it's
just
like,
awkward. Don't do that, people, please.
yeah. But and then on the other side, like I trail run a lot with my wife, I usually like run behind her, and a lot of the time it's like guys who kind of think they're a little bit macho, and being passed by a girl is not really something they enjoy. And I'm sorry if you're a trail runner or trying to be a trail runner, like get used to it. It's called getting chicked, and it happens all the time. Like there's some pretty gnarly girls out there, and the longer
Oh yeah.
distances you do, actually the closer the times are between male and female. So it happens all the time, and you should not be. If you let that like get in your head, like it's gonna ruin your race. So, but yeah, it's actually kind of comical to kind of be like backseat to watching everything go down and see like the people up ahead like looking back and seeing like a girl's coming, and then they like try and speed up a little bit, and then um like eventually like they're like stopped ahead, and you like walk by, and my wife kind of goes, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Like totally like not out of breath at all, and they're
Yeah.
all like gasping for air. So, the- I mean, I don't know. It's kind of funny sometimes when that happens,
That is
but
funny.
yeah, I mean, it comes back to like hike your own hike. I'm sure you guys have talked about that on this show. Like nobody's trying to race each other. Like I'm not trying to deliberately beat you. Like at what? Like what are we trying to
Yeah.
do here? I don't know. But we're all just like in the mountains trying to do mountain stuff and have a good time. And
Yeah, and again, I feel like those kinds of people are very few and far between. I've only encountered a couple of them after
yeah,
over roughly over 3,000 miles of hiking in my
and
life. So
there is like a little bit of a stigma around trail runners where actually Scott Jurek, who was the previous record holder of
the
the
AT, yeah,
AT 2 times before, he there was a quote by him saying like that some people, it's almost like the woods is like people's church, and you wouldn't want people to be like running in between the pews at church kind of thing. Like it's almost like disrespectful.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I don't
so
agree with that, but I can like kind of
yeah,
see like where it's they're coming from. I
yeah,
guess people don't want to be surprised in the middle of the woods when they're just kind of
yeah.
out there to get away from things.
There's an idea of like how it should be done, but that's not necessarily how everyone wants to go about like trail, like being on the trail. So
Of course, I think at the end of the day, it just kind of boils down to hike your own hike. And that's
yeah,
so like cliche. I honestly kind of cringe every time I say it, but
yeah.
in this conversation, I mean, it's just very true, and I think like I just said, that's kind of what it all boils down to. Colby, these always go by so fast. Now we're over an hour at this point, but I don't care. We're still gonna get to the final subject here. We're gonna talk about some trail tales or a trail
All
tale. I'm
right.
not really sure what you have prepared here, but as listeners know, at the end of every episode, I like to ask people about their favorite stories, usually from the through hikes. But I know you haven't done a through hike, but I'm sure you still got some stories. So let's hear it. What do you got?
So, you guys have talked about some bear stories, and I definitely have a handful of them. Um, being out on the trail, like late at night, or just hiking in general, and um, so it's funny that that bear experience that I had during the 46 climbs week, the week before that when I was hiking with you. This was like a 3 week period where I had bear kind of encounters. When I was hiking with you, there was one night, I want to say we were at Marcy Dam, I think, uh, where we, at one point during the night, like a bear came by and kind of slashed open the bag that held
Yeah,
all
I
our
think that was at Marcy
pots.
Dam. Yep, I remember that.
So that was like that was the first one. So we woke up and we're like, oh, this sucks. And
I mean, they didn't get into the food. You're required to
yeah,
bring a bear canister in the High Peaks region or the Eastern
yeah,
High Peaks region of the Adirondacks. I'm pretty sure I got that.
right.
Don't trust me on that. I might have fucked
Yep.
that. Okay, I guess I got it right. But yeah, so they didn't get our food, but they were definitely around.
So then there was the 46 climbs event where it kind of threw a fork in completing close to our planned hike, which, by the way, the reason that 46 climbs logo has the bear in it is because of that story. It's pointing to make fun of us for that. The next week we went out to there's a trail on the other side of the road of Ampersand, I believe, where it goes out to like a beach campsite.
Yep.
And so we were like exhausted, obviously from that week. I remember going to put a kayak on my car, and I could not lift the kayak. I needed help. We were like so messed up from that, and there was a lot of lessons learned, obviously, from that whole experience. But
Right.
we hiked in, did not have any food on us. It was just our tent. We were just staying there for the night, and in the middle of the night, there's a splash in the water. I'm like thinking about it. Like it sounded like a boulder being dropped in the water, like a big splash. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like after the past 2 weeks here, like I do not like
You're just trying
come
to like
on.
relax, like by the water.
Yeah. So we sit there like lying awake for a little bit, and we didn't hear anything else. And we're like, all right, we're just gonna go back to sleep. It's probably gone. Then probably an hour later, we hear another splash, like the
Hmm.
uh same level of like how loud it was. And I'm like, all right, let's pick up the tent and move it out of here because obviously something's going down. I wasn't like sure it was a bear, but like everything was pointing to it. I just really didn't want it to be a bear at that point.
Had enough of
So
those.
I unzip the tent and I step out, and I didn't have my headlamp on at that point, which was dumb thinking back on that. But I heard a splash in front of me, and then there was a swamp behind us, and I heard a splash behind us, and I
Oh,
was like,
jeez.
okay. And the two of us just like grabbed the tent with everything in it and just walked like as far as we could into the woods until we like felt like we were safe. Um, but we went back the night or the morning after, and on the beach there's obviously we're in the sand, and you see the square where our tent is, and there are huge
Oh,
paw
man.
prints all over around like with our arm's length of our tent. So that was like the 3 week period. But there's another one. Well, actually, going back to the first week, there was another thing that happened. I don't know if you remember the night that we got kind of stuck with the other outing club kids in that lean-to. Paul and I had to sleep on the ground outside, just kind of cowboy camp.
Yep.
And
I remember. I was cozy in my hammock that night.
yeah, and this is after hearing like that there's some group the night before got cornered in their lean-to by a bear who like stole the food. I think they were like cooking and eating their food at their campsite, which is not really recommended. But the bear came, scared them back, and started just like chowing down on their food right out of their open bear can. So, and then cornered all these people in the lean-to until a forest ranger came by with some bear spray and got rid of it. So all of us are going out there um, with this story, and I'm like just about to fall asleep, and I hear Paul, like the other leader, he's like, Kolby, 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 and he like sits up, and I'm like, what, Paul? Like, what's going on? And then he just like lays back down, totally asleep. He was like just dreaming, and I was scared out of my mind. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I have like all these campers with me, and like, what am I gonna do? And he was just like sleep talking.
Or maybe he was just messing with you. Maybe
Yeah,
that's been
maybe.
his
I don't
best kept
know.
secret after all these years. We'll have to
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't think I'd heard that one before, so that was
Yeah.
good, Colby. Yeah, we're at 70 and a half minutes right now, so I think we're gonna wrap it up, dude. Thank you so much for
All
coming
right.
on. Thanks so much for talking about 46 climbs and all that stuff. Everybody, again, I'm gonna say you gotta go check that stuff out and stay tuned for a Trail Tales team for that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'm really stoked about that. If you
Yeah.
couldn't tell right now. No, that was really awesome. I definitely learned a lot about the trail running thing as well. So I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say before we kind of sign off here?
I don't think so.
Cool, man. All right. Well, to everybody listening, enjoy the rest of your drive or your shift at work or your lawn mowing if you live in Florida, where a lot of people that listen to this do. I'm jealous. Or did I say laundry folding already? I think I did.
I don't know about you, but I listen to it when I'm staring at the wall of my basement on my treadmill in the morning.
Oh, there you
So
go.
definitely appreciate having some kind of something to listen
Treadmills.
to in the
That's a
morning.
new one too. See, I always like to ask and add to the list. Although I'm already starting to forget them, so I better write that down eventually. But no, thank you everybody for listening so much. Colby, don't hang up quite yet, but yeah, we're gonna sign off now. Peace out.
All right.
Trail Tales
Thank
out.
you.
Yep, no problem, man. Thank you very, very much.